Even though I felt like I looked up a lot of different things about Japan before moving here, there were still some things that caught me off guard or confused me or surprised me about actually living in a Japanese apartment. So let's talk about them. Now, I do want to say, obviously, just like Western apartments, not every Japanese apartment is the same. So some of the things in my apartment might be a little bit different than things in other apartments, or maybe your apartment if you live in Japan too. So keep that in mind. These were just specific things in my certain apartment that I found different. Number one would be that you can turn off and on the hot water. And now this is very, very common in Western houses too. You can always go down to where your water source is. Usually it's in the basement in a lot of Western US homes, and you can turn it off and on, but it's a lot more common to keep it off in Japanese homes, as the main button is either in the kitchen or in the bathroom. And this is mostly just to save energy. Now, in a Western home, usually when you turn on the shower on hot water, or you turn on the hot water while washing dishes, you're going to expect and usually get hot water, but that's not always going to be the case, at least in this specific apartment. You actually have to go over to the buttons, push the hot water on for it to actually work. And as I said, it's very common to keep it off. For example, one time I went to go take a shower and my husband had the hot water off, and this was before I knew that it was common to turn the hot water on and off so much. And I kept trying to turn the shower on warmer and warmer and warmer, and for some reason it just wasn't working and I had to take a cold shower. So it's very common after I, use the restroom or cook or something, that I'll go over to the sink and I'll wash my hands and I'll forget, oh, the warm water's not on, and my hands are being washed with really cold water. So that is just something that was very different to me in this apartment. The second one is the fact that there is just one source of AC and heat in the house. Now, I would say that most newer US homes have either central heating or central air, meaning that there's vents all over the house, and there's a system to make sure that just about every room, maybe not an attic or a basement, but just about every room in the house gets heated or gets cooled, depending on what time of the year it is. Most Japanese homes and apartments don't have this central heating or don't have this central AC. There's one unit in usually just one room called the aircon, which obviously that you can set to a degree that you prefer. But keep in mind that unit is just in one room and it's just blowing the air into one room. For example, I could have the heat going on in this room, go into the kitchen behind me, and the kitchen be freezing cold, which usually isn't the case in US houses. Usually if you're gonna go from your room to the kitchen, it's about the same temperature. We often have to keep our sliding doors into our bedroom either opened or closed depending on the temperature that we want. Like for example, right now it's winter, so it gets really cold, and if we keep those doors closed to our bedroom that don't have the aircon in it, we freeze to death. Not to mention, the bathroom is always so cold. Number 3 is garbage and how it's taken care of and how it can actually affect your apartment. So if you've been to Japan, it might not be a surprise to you that it's very common to have trash can bins for different items, such as plastic or soda bottles or paper, for example. These trash rules are also used in the Japanese home, meaning your trash has to be separated. And I get that some people in the US probably do this, but let's be honest, a lot of people just pile all their trash into the same bin and then take it out. If you live in the country, you take it out to the dump, or if you live in the city, you have garbage people come and take your trash for you. You don't really have to sort it out necessarily. Here, it's so crazy important to separate your trash because different trash goes out on different days. For example, Mondays is usually the day when paper trash goes out, and maybe Tuesdays are the day where plastic trash goes out. There's even days for certain glass bottles and colored glass bottles to go out. I don't get that. It's extremely particular. There's also a day where food trash goes out. For example, any food that you didn't eat or food that you dropped or whatever, that can't go in the same garbage can as, say, the paper or the plastic. It has to be separated and it gets taken out on a different day. And usually you can tell depending on the packaging. I have some display screen wipes here, and on the back it says in katakana, actually, it says pura. That basically means plastic. So this container is plastic, but when you throw away the wipes, they need to go into the paper trash. So it also specifies that on here. So you can't put these two things, the bottle and the trash, in the same can. How can this affect your apartment? Well, if you forget to take the trash out on a paper day on a Monday, and the next paper day isn't until Thursday or Friday, you're going to have a pile of trash that you are not able to take out. It's not like living in the country where you can just go to the dump whenever you want and throw things away. There are some months where, for example, pet bottles only go out maybe 2 or 3 times a month, and if you don't do your job, you're gonna have a lot of these bottles just sitting around your house. Number 4 is kind of silly, but it really is how cold the floors get during the winter. In a lot of newer apartments, and a lot of apartments in Korea actually, they have the hot water flow under the hardwood floors so that it heats the floors. My apartment is not like that, so when it's wintertime, the floors are so cold, even when the heater's on, which is just so strange to me because I did grow up in a place that had hardwood floors, and I would walk around without socks sometimes, but here, for some reason, it might be because of how Japanese houses are poorly insulated, but sometimes I'm sitting here wearing a fuzzy pair of socks over top of slippers because it's so cold. And I used to not understand the point of slippers in Japan. I used to just think that it was something that Japanese just liked to wear in their houses, but no, slippers are so important. In fact, when you invite people over to your house, it's really nice to have extra pairs of slippers for your guests so that their feet don't freeze off. Given that you have to take your shoes off whenever you enter a Japanese home, it's just a nice thing to do for guests so that they don't freeze. Look, you can even get socks for your furniture. Like, come on now. Keep your furniture's feet warm, guys. The last thing is kind of the opposite from number 4, and that is how humid and gross it gets during the summer. I can't stress enough how humid Japan gets in the summer. It's worse than it was in Virginia, and Virginia is also a very hot and humid place. But Japan is some next level stuff. You just walk right outside. It could even not be that hot outside temperature-wise, but you're immediately drenched in sweat just because of how moist the air is. And this can greatly affect your apartment if you don't take caution. Humidity can cause mold just about anywhere, but this is especially true for Japan because of how humid it does get. Grocery stores will sell these little boxes, and they have little beads in them, and sometimes it's powder, sometimes it's beads, but the ones I had were beads. And it basically sucks in the moist air and then turns it into water and captures it so that your things like clothes don't get wet or stuff that's in storage, because closets can become extremely moist during this time, and you don't want to just open up your closet and have your clothes moldy or just any other things you have in there. You don't want them to be damp or anything. So you actually use these little boxes. They're extremely common, and I haven't really seen them much be used in the States, but they're so common here. It's like $3 for a set of like 4 or 5. They're super cheap, and you just put them in the closet. Anyway, there's tons more things I could talk about when it comes to Japanese apartments. There's just so many differences between Asian apartments in general and Western apartments in general, and these are the things that I noticed. How about you guys? Do you guys live in a Japanese apartment? Do you guys live in a Korean apartment? How does your apartment differ from the standard apartment in the West? Or really mostly the US, because I feel like a lot of European apartments also share these characteristics, but I'm not sure because I haven't been to Europe. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more. Leave a comment down below if you liked the video. Don't forget to push like. This is Kira, and I will play with you some other time. See you later.